Chikatilo was sentenced to death 32 years ago, the story of the bloodiest maniac in the USSR. Exactly 32 years ago, on October 15, 1992, one of the most brutal Soviet serial killers, Andrei Chikatilo, was sentenced to death by a court. The verdict began to be read on October 14 and was completed only the next day. Thus, the criminal admitted to committing 56 murders. According to operational information, there were 65 victims. Mad Beast, Rostov Ripper, Red Ripper, Forest Belt Killer, Citizen X, this is also how Chikatilo is called. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo was born on October 16, 1936 in the village of Yabloknoy, Sumy region. According to some reports, in childhood he had signs of cerebral hydrocele. Until the age of 12, Andrei was constantly beaten by his mother because he suffered from bedwetting. With the outbreak of World War II, Chikatilo's father went to the front. In one of the battles, he was captured and was designated a traitor to the motherland by the Soviet authorities. In 1944, at the age of 8, Andrei Chikatilo went to first grade. When the famine began in 1946, he did not leave the house, fearing that he might be caught and eaten. His mother told him stories that his older brother Stepan, who disappeared during those days, was allegedly kidnapped and eaten. At the same time, there is a version according to which Chikatilo's older brother was eaten by his parents themselves during a famine. However, subsequently no documents about Stepan's birth and death were found. After graduating from high school, in 1954 Chikatilo tried to enter the law faculty at Moscow State University, but could not pass the competition. He himself was sure that it was all because of his father's reputation. In 1962, when Chikatilo was 26, his younger sister Tatiana introduced him to her friend Fina. 2 years after they met, they got married. Soon the couple had a daughter, Ludmila. Chikatilo entered the correspondence department of the university in Rostov. In 1969, a second child was born into his family, son Yuri. In 1965, Chikatilo became chairman of the District Committee of Physical Education and Sports, and in 1970, at 33 years old, he got a job as a teacher of Russian language and literature at a boarding school. His wife at this time became a kindergarten teacher. In 1974, Chikatilo began working as a Master of Industrial Training in Novoshakhtinsk, at Vocational School No. 39, and in 1978 he and his family moved to Shakhty, where in September he began working as a teacher at Vocational School No. 33. And already in December of that year, Chikatilo committed his first murder. As Chikatilo himself later admitted, he first killed on December 22, 1978, 9-year-old Elena Zakotnova. Secretly from his wife, he used the services of prostitutes, for which he bought a house on Mezhensky Lane. He dragged the girl there. The child's tortured body was found 2 days later. The girl was raped, in ordinary and perverted forms, and then stabbed to death with a knife. However, the examination established that the girl was strangled. For this you have Alexander Kravchenko, previously convicted of rape and murder, was detained. He was forced to confess to killing the girl. On July 5, 1983, he was shot for a crime committed by Chikatilo. Later, when Chikatilo was already caught, he admitted that he did not want to kill Lena. He lured the girl with the promise of chewing gum and wanted to just have some fun. However, the schoolgirl began to resist and scream. To silence the girl, Chikatilo began to choke her and experienced an orgasm. 3 years after his first crime, Chikatilo, frightened by what he had done, was quieter than water. But I couldn't stand it. In 1981, he killed 17-year-old prostitute Larissa Tkachenko, and in 1982, 12-year-old Lyubov Buryuk. And he couldn't stop, a series of murders began. In 1982, Chikatilo killed a total of 7 children aged 9 to 16 years. The maniac met his future victims at bus stops and train stations, under any pretext, showing the road, puppies, stamps, VCR, etc. He lured them into the forest belt and, having gone far enough into the forest, sometimes the victims walked several kilometers with the killer. Chikatilo always walked ahead, unexpectedly rushed with a knife. Up to 60 knife wounds were found on the mutilated bodies of the dead. Many had their noses, tongues, genitals, breasts cut off or bitten off, and their eyes gouged out. Chikatilo could not stand the sight of his victims. Among his victims were many tramps, drunkards, and the mentally retarded. Chikatilo was arrested for the first time in 1984 for suspicious behavior at the Central Market of Tashkent. He had oral sex with a prostitute right at the bus station. They found Vaseline, soap, and 2 rolls of rope on him. However, the tests taken from Chikatilo did not coincide with those found on the victims, which provided him with an alibi. As the press subsequently wrote, Chikatilo had the rarest feature of a paradoxical excretor, when antibodies of a different blood group are present in the sperm. However, it was later proven that the killer's tests were simply carelessly taken. Then Chikatilo, who had already committed 32 murders, was released. After this, 21 more people will become his victims. Time passed, and the killings in the forest belts continued. Therefore, in December 1985, Operation Forest Belt began, under the control of the CPSU, probably the largest operational event ever carried out by Soviet law enforcement agencies. During the entire operation, more than 200,000 people were checked for involvement in a series of murders. 1,062 crimes were solved in passing. Information was accumulated on 48,000 people with sexual deviations, to which Soviet psychology classified many categories. Police officers dressed in civilian clothes constantly rode trains as bait. It is noteworthy that Chikatilo himself was a vigilante and participated in this operation. He was on duty at train stations, helping the police catch himself. Sensing increased surveillance, he became more cautious and did not kill anyone in 1986. The killings resumed in 1987, when on May 16 Chikatilo killed 13-year-old Oleg Makarenkov, whose remains were discovered only in 1990, after Chikatilo's arrest. The bodies of children were found regularly, even in the center of Rostov, in the park and botanical garden. He also killed in other cities of the USSR, where he went on business trips, in Zaporozhye, Leningrad, Moscow. Andrei Chikatilo was arrested for the second time in 1990. After the murder of the 22-year-old prostitute Svetlana, Chikatilo left the forest and went to the Donleskaz railway station. A policeman who happened to be nearby asked him to show his documents, only because Chikatilo's clothes were not suitable for mushroom pickers common in this area. Since there was no formal basis for the arrest, the policeman only recorded Chikatilo's name and released Chikatilo. But a few days later a body was found near the station. The police checked the reports of everyone on duty at that time and saw the name Chikatilo. Due to the fact that he was previously suspected of murder, Chikatilo was placed under surveillance. Chikatilo was arrested on November 20, 1990. That day, after taking time off from work, he went to the clinic to get an X-ray of his finger, which one of the victims had bitten through during the struggle. The finger turned out to be broken. Chikatilo returned home, then went to the kiosk for beer, taking a 3-liter can, which he carried in a vegetable net. On the way back from the beer kiosk, he was detained by operatives. According to one of the detectives who took part in the operation, everyone was surprised that Chikatilo, such a healthy man, bought a little beer. There was about half a liter in a 3-liter can. During a search of his house, 32 kitchen knives and shoes were found, the print of which matched that found near the body of one of the victims. Chikatilo was interrogated for 10 days, but he did not confess. Then the investigator turned to a psychiatrist for help, after a conversation with whom the criminal admitted to the murders and began to testify. He was accused of 53 murders, but he confessed to 50.